Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, it's another live episode of the Raider Rundown with your guy, Panama Fargo. And today, I got a very special guest, man. We're going to be talking real good Raider football today, man. Going to get into a lot of topics. We're going to get into training camp, man, some of the notes that came out. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead and get this intro started. Let's get the show cracking.
As a young guy, I had a dream that someday I would build the finest organization in professional sports.
Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Like I said, it's another live episode of the Raider Rundown. And as you can see, we got a very special guest here with us today, man. It's Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie, man. Thank you for being here with me today, bro. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Really appreciate you having me on.
Of course, man. I mean, before I started YouTube, bro, I was really heavy into your show with you and BD do, man. So, like, you know, I always would watch you guys. So you definitely got me inspired to do YouTube as well. So, man, I just want to say, man, it's an honor to really, you know, be talking to you for real.
All right, hey, I appreciate that, man. I'm glad, you know, we can, you know, creators and, you know, especially, you know, all Black creators, man, you know, I support all of that. So definitely within Raider Nation and you know, just keep doing your thing, man, and just, you know, keep pushing. That's all it's about, man. Raiders fans will buy anything that's good. So
oh, you feel me? Yeah, as long as we talking something that's truthful, man, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, so I want to go ahead and just get the show started. I just want to go ahead and get it cracking. So we know that the Raiders had their joint practices today with the 49ers, right? We heard a lot of stuff, coming out of it. What was the impressions that you got out of training camp from hearing everything?
It was interesting, man, because everything was so up and down with how these reporters were reporting everything because they
Right.
really couldn't see. I went out to training camp last year, and they really do try their hardest to make sure the media cannot see exactly what the hell they're
Wow.
doing over there. They really push those guys way over the other side of the field. Sometimes you'll see 11 on 11s on a different field, and they won't let the media go over there and watch it. So it was a little hard for them to kind of break it down. I mean, I saw Brock Purdy had like 3 different completion percentages, but I mean, you did hear a lot of good things. You had some interceptions out there. I mean, we heard it was Marcus Peters from Max Crosby. They didn't say it was Duke Shelley, but now it's Marcus Peters getting an interception. Jimmy G threw a touchdown to Austin Hooper. I guess he started off a little slow, but then he got it picked up a little bit. So, it wasn't like something that you could, they went out there and just dominated the 49ers, but, they went out there and held their own a little bit. And it wasn't like a dominant practice on either side, I would say. So, I mean, that's a good thing if you think about it.
It really is. It really is. And I wanted to ask you about that. I wanted to touch on that. Do you think that's like a strategic move by Josh McDaniels, by Dave Ziegler to really, not let the media see everything that's going on? What do you think about that?
And it's some of that kind of like the feeling like you're just, I don't know, like you're in some dark secret tunnel building these plays that nobody's going to know about. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, Josh McDaniels has been running the same offense for a while.
Right.
There's some couple changes that he might make here and there, but I can go back and watch 2017 Patriots, and they're pretty much running the same stuff. I mean, he's a good play caller of it, and he can mix it up, has good game plans, but it's nothing new. I don't know why he's acting like it's something crazy. In my opinion, they don't do anything like extraordinarily new. And the same thing with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's not going to do anything crazy out there that's going to like surprise anybody. I mean, he's just going to wheel and deal with how he does. And I think Josh McDaniels kind of does the same thing. But so I don't know. It's I don't know. It's some weird secret society type of thing that they're trying to do over there. But like, it's not that big of a deal to me, in my opinion. Because I remember last year I got in trouble for leaking a couple things that I guess it wasn't supposed to leak. It was. Yeah, they're
real strict on that then. So they're real strict on just posting stuff, period.
Yeah. You can't post anything that they do. You can't mention anything that's like X's and O's, because I'm an X's and O guy. So you can't even ask Josh McDaniels X's and O's really during the press conferences. You can't ask him X's and O's. So that's why you hear a lot of basic questions come from these guys, because they can't ask them scheme questions. Like I saw you were playing with 3 safeties. What is that? You can't ask him those things. So,
and what's crazy to me is that the Raiders are one of the most secretive teams. That you look around the NFL, around the NFL, I know this year especially, I've seen a lot of different teams post their footage and joint practice footage and stuff like that. The Raiders, you barely get anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Cowboys. They post their whole practice, basically. Yeah. Everybody knows the Cowboys practice. We're breaking down how Dak threw a football and all that stuff. So it's the same with the Chiefs. The Chiefs show their whole practice too. The Chiefs don't care. Exactly. But I mean, when you're dominant like that, I guess you kind of have that aspect. But some teams are just, I don't know if that comes from Bill Belichick, or you don't see a lot of Patriot stuff out there either. Bill Belichick has always been super anti-media. You know what I mean? So it's kind of that type of thing. That they kind of only give the media so much. I mean, they wouldn't really tell us anything about Jimmy G or anything like that earlier on in the season. So, in the off season, they're kind of that's just how they are, man. They're
right, and it's crazy to me. Oh, shout out to my boy Protect the Shield, man. If y'all don't follow him, man. I had to get the fresh cut. The hair wasn't doing it for me before this, man. I had to get right. Got to get stinky.
I feel you.
But let me see. Okay, so we're talking about the schemes, and it's funny we brought up Jimmy G, right? And I do want to ask you, because I don't know if you saw today in his interview after the practice, they kind of asked him about the terminology and have to relearn the system. How much do you think that, Josh McDaniels is going to open up the offense for him? How much do you think he's going to add some new wrinkles that we didn't see last year?
I think the new wrinkles that they might be adding are what from Scott Turner, because Scott Turner's in there. He's the passing game coordinator. Nobody's really talked to him, to be honest, but they're going to be doing some different things. They're going to try to implement some things they did with Kyle Shanahan that they're going to try to mix in with him, which means they're probably going to be more of a short passing offense. Not a lot of explosive plays. It's like today when the practices, all you heard about completions. They're just completing, and hoping in the red zone that they can score some touchdowns. but you got to have explosive plays in the NFL. So that's going to be an element that they got to find a way to get in there. But it's going to be a lot of trying to mix it in with what he used to do in San Francisco. But this offense is totally different a little bit from what they asked the quarterback to do once the ball snapped and before the ball snapped. West Coast offense is just set up a little different, and it could be easier. Not gonna say easier to navigate, but you can work through it, and there's a lot of more ways you can kind of find guys to get open or whatever. Basically, this one is so many adjustments. He's got to be on the same page as his wide receivers. He's got to be on the same page as every player on the field when he's passing the football, or you might throw some interceptions and those type of things. So it's going to get difficult for him there, that adjustment and adjusting to the players, because a lot of things are done on the fly. Like I'll give an example. There's this play basically where there's an option route at the bottom of it and there's an option route at the top of it. So you have to try to guess which guy is going where, and the guy on top of it, he can go based on the leverage, he can go left, he can go right. And then the guy in front of him, he can stop, go left or go right. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he has to really trust what he's seeing and trust the guy in front of him. And it can become tough. And especially with somebody like him that, he hasn't played the offense in a long time. So.
Right. And see, this is the type of talk that I definitely wanted on here, man. Get to the X's and O's, really get down to it, right? I want to ask you as well. So we're talking about opening up the offense, the type of schemes, that he can run. Some people may not be familiar with what Jimmy can bring to this offense. Now, we all know that he has certain limitations. And like you just alluded to, right, I feel like the explosive plays are kind of limited from what we're seeing so far, from what we're hearing, right? They're kind of limited, or the rhythm is not there right now. But what can Jimmy bring to this offense that we may not be used to seeing?
Well, I don't know what he's going to bring to the offense that you may not be used to seeing, because I think honestly, from an entertainment perspective, is going to be pretty boring. It's not going to be something that's going to be too exciting. Efficiency. He's been efficient his whole career. There's going to be conversations. Is that Kyle Shanahan? Is that Jimmy Garoppolo? I think we're going to find out. I think it's going to be a little bit of a mixture of both. You're going to see more efficiency. Probably, maybe him not forcing it to Devontae Adams, I think is something that's going to be a little different from this year. I think that, Carr last year got too Adamsy, and I think Adams can get in your head, which, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic goes. But I think he's going to be more willing to kind of just throw at other people and kind of just trust what Josh calls. I think you're going to see a little bit different element of that. It's going to be a little bit of him just kind of trusting what Josh likes to do, and getting the ball out of his hands quick and getting the ball out quicker to kind of help the offensive line a little bit. He's not going to be holding the ball that long. He doesn't want to do that, so he's not going to do that. He hasn't done it throughout his whole career. He didn't do it in New England. He's not going to do it now. So it's going to be a little different with that. I think there's a more willingness to kind of try to throw downfield last year from Carr. I don't know if that's a prove it to my naysayers type of thing, but Jimmy doesn't really have that problem. He's just gonna play how he wants to play and not really worry about that type of stuff. So I think that he's gonna be more efficient, right? There's probably more efficiency in this offense, but I think it's not gonna be that much different, just because Jimmy G is not that much of a different quarterback in my opinion. I think it's gonna be not the same, because I think Carr is just some mostly. I think he's just a better quarterback overall. Right. But I think Jimmy G is just somebody that can come in and be efficient for the Raiders.
Yeah, and you just touched on something right now that I definitely agree with. Last year we got to Devontae Adams happy, right? And although he is the best receiver in the league, and it's never a bad idea to go to Devontae, at the end of the day, we're sitting there. And we had to spread the ball around. But I think what Josh and Dave have done a great job of this year is adding a little bit more of the playmaking element that we did not have really as much last year. Because when you look at it now, you add Jacoby Myers, you add Hunter Renfrow. How much dividends do you think Jacoby and guys like Trey Tucker and even having Hunter back healthy are going to pay for Jimmy going forward?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the short passing offense. I think Hunter Renfrow's going to have a big year. I think he had a really good day today. I think it's somebody that he's going to lean on, going to be really a safety net for Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody that can work in the middle, very reliable. He's the yak guy too. A couple of years ago, 2021, he almost led the league in missed tackles for a wide receiver. So I think that's going to be a different element that we're going to see. And I think Hunter Renfrow is going to have a bounce back year. I really expect that just from, him, the way he plays. And I think a little bit of understanding of the system that what Josh McDaniels wants him to do. Maybe if they let him a little more loose too, hopefully they do that. Let him just kind of do his thing. I mean, they let Devontae do his thing. I think they should let Hunter Renfrow do his thing. If you're not going to hold Devontae, you're not going to hold the reins. I don't care what happens, whatever you think you want in the slide or whatever timing. If you got a guy who's a dynamic route runner, you think you should just let him do his thing, and they got to work around it. And I think that's gonna be a little bit more of seeing that a little bit, in my opinion. And I think that's gonna help out Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. And that's why I said keep them moving the chains, keep them in that element where they're playing pretty well, and just keeping the chains moving. I think Jacoby Myers fits in there too as well. I think Jacoby Myers will be that type of player where they're gonna be able to move him around, and he's a reliable guy, great hands, and just like I said, moving the ball. I don't expect a lot of the deep passes to these guys. So I expect, just kind of playing that inside short passing offense over and over again, in my opinion. So.
Right. And it's funny, the narrative on Hunter has kind of changed, like, as we've been going through this training camp. Before training camp, you're looking, there's a lot of trade talk, a lot of trade rumors. Now, all of a sudden, every day we're hearing he's stacking another good day on top of another good day. So I definitely expect him to have a bounce back. But like you said, I mean, it seemed last year he just seemed something was off, that we didn't quite know what it was last year with Hunter. Obviously, he was hurt. But even when he was in there, he didn't play as free as just for me personally, as we were used to seeing him play. But I definitely think that this year he can definitely have a breakout, or not a breakout, but a better year than he had last year for sure.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule out the trade. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't just rule it out. Just because Trey Tucker's there, and you never know how they feel about things, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes and why he might have been a little bit upset. I mean, he even sounded that way in his press conference, that there was a lot of things going on. So who knows if those things were bothering him, and if him not being able to run the routes that he wants to run, and kind of them kind of just taking away what he really does best and what really made him Hunter Renfrow. And especially when you let Devontae just do his thing, I think you got to do the same with Hunter Renfrow. But I just wouldn't put that past them, just because those rumors are out there, and I still see some Raiders beat writers coming and mention that could be up in the air. And I mean,
okay, that's interesting. I mean, if so, if we're gonna do that, then I hope the good conversation comes back. I kind of want to transition to one of the rookies that the Raiders have, right? And he wasn't out there today, and I'm kind of disappointed he wasn't out there today, because I wanted to see him against the 49ers defense. But Michael Mayer, right? And I know a lot of people were disappointed that we got rid of Darren Waller when we did. But I would argue a lot of people down to say that if you look at this tight end room as a whole, it's, I believe, much better than it was last year. You still have Austin Hooper, who we saw make a number of plays today. But what can we expect from Michael Mayer, coming into the season, although he's nicked up right now?
Yeah, I think what you expect is he's going to be the tight end one. I mean, I think we saw Austin Hooper kind of fill in today, but I think as a tight end one, I think it's going to be Michael Mayer. I think he's going to have the job from day one. I think he's going to get a chance to come out there and be the starter. And, you're going to see him working a lot of the seam routes, that Jimmy Garoppolo likes to work in the middle of the field. And I think, a lot of the play actions they like to do, that goes to the tight end as well. So I think you're going to see Michael Mayer, especially on first down, second down, and maybe even spread him around on third down. I think he has a little bit of yak ability too, so you can get him the ball out in space where he can make some plays, break some tackles. So I really did like that draft pick a lot. So I really expect him to have a pretty good rookie year. Maybe not like a breakout season or like anything like that, but kind of adjusting to the system, understanding what they really want him to do, and and develop as a run blocker. Because I think as a run blocker on film, it's a little up and down coming in. So I think he's got to develop there a little bit. But, I would expect him to be a guy who's running up the middle, and hopefully they can use him in the red zone, and somebody that, Jimmy can throw the ball up to. He can make some plays for him.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that was one of my favorite picks from this year, just because I feel like he fits the offense like a glove. Like, I just felt like it was just the match made in heaven for fit-wise. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As it came. Somebody right here, Protect the Shield, asked, which cornerbacks will make the roster, or which wide receivers do you think will make the roster? And I did want to touch on that, because I've been seeing a lot of wide receivers making plays, and it's going to be interesting when they do the cuts, how many receivers they keep, because it's a talented room. So what corners and receivers do you see like really making the roster, like who are on fringe?
Some guys are on the fringe that I see making the roster, probably from the cornerback position. I think, one guy that might sneak onto the roster just because they might like him and like how tough he is Amik Robertson. I think
Mm-hmm.
he had a good day today.
Didn't he have a
And
pick today, if I'm not mistaken?
he had a couple of knockdowns, a couple of
Oh,
pass
okay,
deflections.
okay,
He didn't
okay.
have a pick, but we haven't heard his name much, but he's just a feisty guy,
Right.
and he made a lot of plays last year. I think he played pretty decent. I mean, is he a starting cornerback? I don't know, but I think there's some things there that he can play. And just his attitude, right? They might like that attitude a little bit. I think Facion is somebody. He got injured, but I think that's going to
Yeah.
be a guy that's going to get a chance to actually play opposite Marcus Peters once he comes back. They're paying him a lot more money than I expected when I looked it up. That was pretty crazy how much money they're giving him, and he has a 2-year deal. So I think that's somebody that might
Okay.
be the solid out there. And before he got hurt, he was the guy opposite Marcus Peters. So
Right.
Ja'Cory Bennett has got a chance to move in there after that. But a guy that I think might get cut though is like David Long. I think
Yeah, he hasn't practiced. He's been injured, if I
that
haven't mistaken.
too, yeah, and then I think that he has a chance to be cut because there's still guys like Sam Webb out there that are
Right.
already here, right? And I think some of those guys might end up trying to sneak on this team too as well. But I think some of those guys, I mean, to me, you got to follow the dollars. That's why I think Duke Shelley has a
Yeah.
chance to maybe make the team, but he also has a chance to be cut too, and kind of be surprised some people if he doesn't get in there. But I think he's a good player too, so I think he might have a chance to get on this team. But it's not that bad of a room, to be honest. And,
No.
Marcus Peters out there, I think they have a pretty good secondary, and if Trayvon Moore can take a next step, I think that's a huge thing. That's a huge deal. So we're going to see, hopefully they play better back there. And, it's going to be interesting to see whether they play man to man or whatever. I mean, because you still got Tyler Hall mixed in there too as well.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a lot of guys trying to mix in there. I think somebody might get cut that we're not expecting to, or even like a trade that we're not expecting to with some of these guys. So I think we just got to be on the lookout for anything with this cornerback room, and whoever decides to separate from themselves when they get into these joint practices. Because like I said, we haven't heard Amik's name for all training camp until today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And that's true. Me personally, right, I've been saying this on my channel. I think that this secondary is going to be the most improved unit of this defense. I really do. Just off the mix of veteran and young talent they have and people they brought in. And also, I've also said a lot about Trayvon Merrick. That's a player of very, very close interest to me because I feel like, he hasn't really produced like we thought he was going to be once we drafted him from TCU. I know me personally, I had, very kind of high expectations once they drafted him. So I was like, okay, he might be turned into that franchise cornerstone safety, but it just hasn't clicked. And, it might be because of the coaches or whatever the case, but you think he's in line for a good season? From what I've heard, him and Marcus Epps have really good communication back there. So, I mean, it seems as though he's starting to get the scheme.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, I mean, they put him in a good position where he can, play a lot of those zone coverages and, play a little bit of man-to-man out there. I think they when he got injured last year, I think he was a little bit of a different player. So I think those injuries really hurt him, especially with the hip injuries. I think, some of those type of things are things that are, really going to not let you flip your hips and play man coverage like they really wanted him to. So it'll be interesting how they mix up the coverages too this year. That's what I'm missing, going up from Michigan City train camp, where you can kind of get an idea of what they want to do. Are they moving Epps around? Is more down there playing man to man? Are they doing a lot of free safety stuff, with Isaiah Palomar out there?
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see what Morag does and how they use him this year. But having Mark Epps back there, who is a very sound player, is really rarely in the wrong position. And I think it's going to help him a lot for sure.
Definitely. Because, I mean, everybody from coaches to beat writers to anybody has been ranting and raving about the communication between Marcus Epps and Trayvon Merrick. And that just gets me excited. There's another safety that back there that can communicate. It's just going to make the job easier for Trayvon, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into another little training camp note. We heard this name a lot throughout the day, and that's 7th round pick Nesta J. Silvera. We heard this name a lot today. A lot of beat reporters, everybody that's there, just continued to rant and rave about the job he was doing. If we can get production from this guy, I mean, from a 7th round pick, I mean, I'd be through the moon. So from the film, I know if you've watched a little film, if you haven't watched film, but If you watch this film, what have you seen from him that's made you be like, okay, this guy can actually, come in and make an impact?
I mean, Nesta's an interesting player, just because I think the way he practices really didn't match his film last year. I mean, because he had a really great Senior Bowl.
Okay.
That's I'm from Arizona, so he went to ASU, so
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I know a little bit. I know a little bit about him. I think during the season he kind of played his role. But so when you got to the one-on-ones in camp, like what we saw today, and you got the one-on-ones in the Senior Bowl, he really dominated. And I think there's a lot of power and there's a lot of elements that maybe he could become a better NFL player than he was in college. Because in college it gets a little weird with how some of these guys are used. All right, so you understand, like Tyree Wilson wasn't really used in the way he'll be used on the Raiders, and same thing with like Will Anderson, who played today. Will Anderson was playing 5 technique. He's playing base. He's not really playing defensive end at Alabama. He's out there playing defensive end in the Texans today. He's just getting all types of pressure just off the ball super quick. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Nesta plays in the NFL than he did in college, because what he was asked to do in college might maybe not be what he's asked to do for the Raiders. And I think like the Senior Bowl, he played really well at the Senior Bowl. And then you see him out in practice kind of doing the same thing, because he has a lot of power. He has a lot of ability to make guys move. And I think that when you see those elements from him, you can kind of get a little bit excited about what he can do. But hopefully it could carry on to what's happening in the games, and him understanding his assignments instead of him just rushing through people. Because if I just line you up in front of somebody, like he has that ability, he could probably just run through people.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed.
What you saw today. But like what I was talking about with the Senior Bowl, he did the same damn thing. So like he was running through people in the Senior Bowl, and that's where he really started to make a name for himself. And I think that's where he even got drafted, because he had a lot of off the field issues at Florida, and it really helped him get drafted, because I think he had a great Senior Bowl week. And when you go out there and you ball out in those practices, and then you come out here and you ball out in practice, maybe there's something to he wasn't used right in college, and maybe there's a different way we can use him now. So.
Right. I mean, because I'm hearing, and this has been throughout camp that his name has been mentioned. It isn't just today. Like throughout camp, I've heard a lot of people, and that's Jay Severe, and that's like he's just been popping up. And it's good to see, because our other rookies that we drafted to be on the D-line, Byron Young, Tyree Wilson, they've been hurt. I mean, and Byron Young made his return already, and I kind of heard his name today, but we haven't seen much of Tyree Wilson. I'm glad you brought him up. So when he does get back on the field, I've been telling people on my channel, right, let's not expect too much when he gets back on the field, because 1, he needs to get back into football shape, hasn't been practicing none of that, and 2, just this is a developmental pick for the Raiders. That's how I feel. What do you feel about Tyree Wilson and when they got him?
Yeah, I think I really like Tyree Wilson at that spot. I was a big pusher for that. I was a huge pusher of taking Tyree Wilson at 7.
Okay.
So that was one of my things ever since I started watching him. So I really did like that pick. And the ability that he has to be what I would say a compliment to Max Crosby, because I don't think we need to like. I mean, it would be awesome, right? It would be awesome to have 2 elite edge rushers.
Of course, anybody would take that.
Yeah, right. So I think Max Crosby needs a compliment, and I think that's what Tyree Wilson would really fit. I think Max Crosby's that crazy dude at the edge. Nobody can really block him, and he's going to get that pressure. But Tyree Wilson's strong, so he's going to push the pocket already. And, while he develops, and maybe he might not be that 10, 15 sack guy, 12 to 15 sack guy, but I think he could be an 8 to 10. And, he's helping Max get to the 12 to 15. And you have the 8 to 10, 12 to 15. It all adds up after a while, in my opinion. So, and because that 8 to 10 1 year could turn into 12 to 15. Yep. And I think that's what you can see from Tyree Wilson going forward. And I still think he's just, strong freak of an athlete. So I think that he complements Max Crosby really, really well. And they both got crazy motors. There's really not going to be a stop from both of them. They're both really strong guys. That's what I liked about him the most. Because they could have went with a different edge rusher and had somebody that had some great ability, but I think he matches Max very well. So I think that's why I really like that pick. And I think that's, like I was talking about earlier too, he wasn't used really like you're going to see him. I mean, he played a lot of 5 technique too, and played like his hands inside a lot, and didn't really play on the edge like he's going to play in the NFL, and just kind of get out to the quarterback. So I think we're going to see some different elements from him too as well as an NFL player.
Right. And You know, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that when he gets on the field and when we do see him, I think his immediate impact, we're going to see it immediately, is going to be in the run game. I just think just because of his physicality, the way he fits on some of these run fits, I think that he's going to immediately show his impact in the run game. I just don't think we'll immediately see it in, getting after the quarterback. I think that's going to take some time for him to really start getting his rhythm and doing that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's is there going to be a chance where he might, like I said, he's not going to be the greatest sack guy. He just doesn't have the bend for it. I mean,
Right,
to be
right.
honest, I mean, he doesn't have the bend and kind of what you need to corner to the quarterback like a great sack guy that you see like TJ Watts and the Myles Garrett, Max
Mm-hmm.
Crosby's, those type of guys, right? But the Chandler Jones really never had that too. So there's always that element if the guy could become a technician that he could just find ways to get to the quarterback.
Right.
But I agree with you that, I mean, he will be able to play the run early on. As long as he keeps his pad level down a little bit, gets his pad
That's
level
it.
down, and he can use his strength. I think there'll be a good job of playing the run early on. But it's how much he's going to play over Chandler Jones right now is going to be the real question. So,
And that's the thing I was saying on my channel a couple of days ago. That's another reason why we're probably not going to see fully unleashed, because I don't think the Raiders drafting him in saying that this is going to be a guy that plays like 85% of the snaps, right? Because you still have Chandler Jones right there. And that's a perfect guy in my opinion, for him to learn behind. I mean, of course you have Max Crosby, but you have that savvy veteran who is a great player in the NFL. And that's a guy that I think he can learn from year one, not put the weight of the world on his shoulders. And then next year, we'll be able to see him, like, I believe, fully unleashed.
yeah. I mean, that's their plan. I mean, their plan
Right.
is 2024 to see what he can do, and then maybe they can move on from Chandler Jones, and they can work those things out where Tyree Wilson and Max Crosby become that 1-2 tandem. And I think that's their real goal.
Yeah.
And then kind of build up that interior. I think they got to get some young guys from the interior inside to to kind of get some more pressure there, and kind of build that up. Hopefully Brian Young can develop there, and we're talking about Nesta, but I feel like Nesta is more of a nose type of guy.
That's how I
But
feel.
and they need a little bit more of that interior pass rush to kind of open up for those guys. So hopefully they get that done, and he just develops into what they believe he could be.
Right. I mean, it's all about development. It's all about how the Raiders coaching staff develops these young players, keeping on the same track with the young players. This is a guy, right, that I want to say most of the Raider Nation wasn't really feeling when we drafted him. But when we drafted him, I kind of hit the pause button and said, this guy's kind of nice after watching the film and getting to him. And that's Trey Tucker. Right.
Mm.
After watching his film and really getting into his film, I liked him more and more with every video I watched. And now we're hearing, that he's starting to make a little name for himself in camp. Right. What have you heard about him? What excites you to see about him? And what do you think he can bring to the offense?
Yeah, what Trey Tucker brings is intelligence and toughness, and I think that's really why they drafted him where they drafted him. I think he has a chance to kind of just be a really sure-handed slot receiver. He's willing to go over the middle and take a big hit and then hold on to the football. He doesn't really drop the football a lot. He has a really low drop rate. It was a little bit higher this past year, but previous years it was really, really low. You kind of just see that as a year that maybe is kind of just a freak element, but I still think what he can do is be really smart in the slot. He has a great understanding of zone coverages and how to get open and where to find things. And like I said, the sure-handedness and of course the speed to run up the seams is going to be something he's really good at. And he's got to kind of develop as a route runner a little bit and kind of find ways to maybe that wiggle will never be there, that he can be that great route runner. But I think there's still other ways you can use him. And of course he's going to help in the kicking game, and he can run the jet sweeps and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be that element that he adds to it. So I think he's definitely going to be on the roster. So I would expect him to find ways to throw him up the seam and make some of those big throws up the seam that they want to make. But he does have to develop as a route runner, I believe, though. But there is some great elements for him to really become a good slot receiver.
Right. And this is just me personally, while watching his film and knowing he's going to be in this Josh McDaniels offense, I kind of got a little Julian Edelman. That's how I feel like they'll kind of try to use him a little faster way. What do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like they're kind of pushing him into that type of role right there?
Yeah, we'll see because I think with the way they use Julian Edelman is kind of how they want to use Hunter Renfro.
Right.
And I think Trey Tucker, yeah, he just has to develop as a route runner to get there.
I
Because like I
know.
said, he's just a little stiff right now, and I think there's some he's got to kind of work out that and try to figure out how he can beat people one on one because I think that was like his main issue when he was in Cincinnati. So I think he's got to kind of develop there, and then maybe he
Okay.
could become that. But I think up the seams, what they like to do. So they kind of used to mix it up with Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman. They're both there, and Danny Amendola was more the seam guy than the I'm going to work you route runner underneath, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so I think you have to kind of mix it up and look at it that way, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
So more of he's more like a Danny Amendola type of guy
Okay.
that they
Okay.
like, and then Hunter Renfro is more of the Julian Edelman guy. So or their Wes Welker, basically.
I
So
like that. I like that.
that's why how I look at it. If you're just kind of how to vision how they would be deployed in this offense.
Right. Okay. And that definitely makes a lot of sense. And keeping on the track of the offense, right? Because right now we got to focus on the players who are here. The Raiders are still going through their Josh Jacobs dispute, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. We don't know when it's going to get resolved. So we got to focus on the people who are here. And we've heard a lot of things about Zamir White. I like the way he looks coming into this year. Seeing how he transformed his body from year one, year two, he looks the part certainly. But most people really don't know what we can get from him or what he can do if he was able to get a full season span of work, right? And
Yeah.
I think that if he got a full season span of work, I think he'd be able to get a 1,000 yards or get close to 1,000 yards. I definitely believe. What do you feel about Zamir White if we didn't have Josh Jacobs?
It's going to be interesting to see how Zamir White develops. I think Zamir White is somebody that, coming out of college, he really did share carries with somebody else. So I think it's
Yeah.
him having a full workload is something that he's going to have to get used to. And, usually they'll have like a 2 running back committee with where he's from. And, Josh McDaniels likes to draft those type of guys. And he really, really looks for those type of running backs. If you can, Damian Harris, those type of guys. He likes those guys who will come into the league really fresh. But I think one thing Zamir White, he has to get better at is just making sure that he has the vision and the patience
Right.
to let holes develop. And I think it's something that he kind of had an issue with last year. But you're hearing some really good things out of him from camp and how he's improving there, and how he's getting better in pass protection so he can stay on the field. Because I think that's the real reason why he wasn't on the field last year is that he couldn't pass protect, and they didn't feel very comfortable with him working Josh Jacobs in there just in case they wanted to pass on first down or something like that. And I think they feel more comfortable with that now. So I think you're going to see more carries from Zamir White. But I think if the line is playing well and they can open some holes for him, he can really show that 4.4 speed and get some work over there. But I think the line has to work pretty well for him. He's not going to be like Josh Jacobs, where Josh Jacobs can just make anything happen if some guy misses a block. Zamir White's not that type of running back. He's going to need some help from his offensive line. So they got to be solid when he's in there. The offensive line has to play well to kind of give him some holes so he can make some things happen. But he does have some good bursts, going through those holes and really plays with a lot of power, right? So I think he can help them in the red zone a little bit too. Running people over, getting those things going.
Man, and yeah, all I hear from him and from everybody, talking is that he's just like a bull in the china shop when he gets the ball, right? He's just a little bowling ball. And that's something I like to see. But you just alluded to something, and it's funny how you alluded to it because I think Zamir White kind of talked about it in his presser as well. And they asked him, what's one thing you really took from Josh and all that? He's like, the pass protection. And it's funny you say it right there because it seems like that's something that they were really focused on with him specifically. Like, you got to get your pass protection right just in case we don't have Josh Jacobs there. But I think, there's another running back that's behind him. And a lot of people keep talking about this guy, and I haven't seen anything, but it's Sincere McCormick, right? A lot of people continue to talk about Sincere McCormick. Is there something that I'm missing that I'm not seeing? What do you think about him?
Yeah, so Sim McCormick is somebody that I think it's a guy that has a chance to, if he has a really good preseason, kind of maybe sneak onto the practice squad or maybe even try to sneak on this team. They do keep 5 running backs all the time. That's something that they do a lot. But there's Brandon Bolden, there's Amir Abdullah there, right? So you got to kind of pinch those guys in. So it's Britton Brown, on the verge of getting cut. I don't know. I mean, they kept Britton Brown all last year. We'll see how he does. And I thought Britton Brown kind of outplayed Zamir White in the preseason last year. So
I liked the way he looked in the preseason last year. Personally, he ran with some toughness last year.
Yeah. So I was surprised he didn't get any run at the end of the year those last couple of games. But it's gonna be interesting to see how Britton Brown develops. I mean, nobody's really no talk about him all camp, but I think he's gonna get a lot of running games. We might see him like we did last year and kind of get excited about what he needs to do. But Sincere McCormick is somebody that if he goes out there and has a good preseason, he can really maybe find a way to get on this team. There's a running back. They're really open with running backs. They're really open with undrafted players. So I mean, he definitely has a chance to kind of get on this football team. There's not really too much tape out there for him. So I'm not 100% that much familiar with him, but I know he is somebody that fans really like, and that hopefully he has a good preseason out there and he can find a way to get on this football team. But he's got to fight through Britton Brown for sure.
Yeah, and that's something like you said. I haven't seen too much tape on him, but like the fans love him, and that's something that that everybody continues to talk about. I'm like, damn, I'm missing something. Like it's me then. I need to find some more tape, something like that, But I don't want to keep it too long, but I just got a couple little more topics, man, because I want to get your knowledge. I want to tap into the offensive line real quick. We're seeing a lot of shuffling going on, right? And the name that has popped up recently a lot is Greg Van Roten. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Is it Greg Van Roten?
You're saying it right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's a name that's popped up a lot on the right guard position. And I was a guy who wasn't really considering him to really push for that starting guard spot. Now he's kind of surprised me. Do you think he has a legitimate shot to really win that right guard spot?
Oh, 100%. When they signed him, I was thinking like, oh wow, because it's not that he's the greatest guard in the world. He's been a solid NFL guard for 8 seasons, so it's not like it's a really a surprise to me. Alex Bars never started a football game until last season, right? Van Roten has started 55 starts, right? He has a lot of football, right? He's played a lot of guard. And that's why I think you feel more comfortable with him playing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why I really liked what when they signed him. I thought it was a pretty decent signing. It was because he's just an upgrade over Alex Bars. Putting Alex Bars out there, I don't think you can do that again, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo, his biggest issue is handling pressure, and I think that's when a lot of his let's say his weaknesses just just really highlight. And
at that point, yeah.
it's just right. So you don't want him under pressure, right? You want him really comfortable back there. And I think somebody like Van Roten, who you can go whatever you want to go. PFF he has solid grades on PFF, not really like negative grades, really solid grades there. So he's just a solid NFL guard, starting NFL guard. And not all of them are sexy, especially at the guard position. Right. Now all the guys are just starting. There's some guys that just play a lot. And he's played 55 starts, and I think he's a veteran, and I think that's gonna kind of push Alex Bars. And honestly, I really hope that he beats out Alex Bars. I was really hoping that, that was a big thing for me. And I'm happy that's happening. To be honest.
Right,
really appreciate it. Appreciate that,
I love everybody getting their money and everybody getting their job. But at the end of the day, from what I saw last year, if anybody with 2 eyes and knows football, watches football, you do not want Alex Bars in there again. That's just me. I did not want him in there again. I honestly had high hopes from Netane Moody, but this is a guy I ain't heard like nothing from him or his name at all. Like I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. And I did read one report that said Netane Moody is like pushing for it. So I don't know. You might have these guys need to get preseason run,
Right.
And I think Moody's going to play a lot, and I think he's going to get a chance to put some film out there to have really show that he can really make this team. I think this team needs to have some guards. I think last year they didn't have any damn guards. You know what I mean? They had a bunch of tackles that could play guard. That's cool. You
need actual guards though.
I need some guards though. You know what I mean? So hopefully they keep some more of those players just in case anybody goes down, and we have some ability to move these guys around. But the offensive line is very, very important this season. To be honest, and it's going to be a big thing because if you want all these things that Jimmy Garoppolo does well, he's got to have time. And from the red zone, all those things he needs time, and if he doesn't have time, it's not going to go how we want it to go. So the offensive line, they really got to come to play. They can't be, to be honest, to me, they can't be average.
No.
So they have to be good for this season to go well. So last year you could say they were average. This year, no, they have to be good. I mean, Dylan Parham has to take the next step. He's got to be better, right? Andre James, he's pretty good when guys, he can help out, but sometimes the guys get up right up on him. He struggles a little bit, but I think Andre James, he's a solid center. I'm not gonna get on Andre James too much. He's a solid center, but Bars and Illuminor is solid too in pass protection. I think these guys, they just have to have a good year. Right. And like I said, I'm not talking about like average or whatever. I mean, good. So it's really a lot on them. And, because if they don't play well, man, it's I don't know.
It's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season. If you don't play well, because you're thinking about Jimmy Garoppolo, his health, the way he handles pressure, one. And two, if you don't have Josh Jacobs back there, you have to now say, okay, what is this running game going to look like? Because let's be honest with ourselves. Josh Jacobs is a different human being, right? And some of the runs he was making last year was a result of just him being that good. And I think that this year, like you said, they had to take a step up, and we'll see what that looks like. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, they have to, because I mean, for this, it's like paramount for this offense. It's like the most important thing. So hopefully they develop. I'm kind of mad they didn't address it. I think they should have spent some damn money there. But
and I will say this. And I know they're really banking on the development of Dylan Parham. And this is the guy, right? Even before I made YouTube, I was watching UMBD. And this is the game, right? I believe it was that Chargers game. Either it was the Chargers game or another game. Some other game. But he kind of struggled a little bit. And I think it was the Rams. He just kind of struggled with the power, right? And it didn't seem like he was all the way there. Now, this year, he looks a little better. He looks stronger, right? I think that in order for the Raiders' offensive line as a whole to be good, I think he has to develop the way that, the Raiders think he can develop. You think he can be that all-pro that, everybody's saying, okay, yeah, he can be that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with Parham. Parham cracks me up because I think if they kept him at right guard, I think he would have been terrific.
Yeah, I don't understand that. That's the same thing I thought, because he played good right guard. Didn't he play right guard week 1, and then after that it was just left guard?
He played damn well at right guard too. I don't get it. Whatever. But he's developing at left guard, and we could try to say like it's easy switch, but he played right guard at Memphis.
Right? I loved him at right guard. I thought
so they don't, which is fine. That's what they don't. They want him at left. I don't make those choices, but he's got to develop there, and I think he will. I think he'll get it. I really believe in him a lot. I was really a guy. I really like that pick. I really like him.
Yeah, I like him too.
And I think he showed some really good elements in the run game last year, that he could show some power a little bit. I think he got to get used to just being on the left side and doing pass protection on the left side. Yeah. So I really do like him. I see you guys talk about Mumford too. Mumford is somebody that I think they should start too as well. Even I like Jermaine Illuminor. I'm not gonna
over
say that.
Jermaine. You say he should start over Jermaine?
Yeah, because I'll say this. When you play as well as Mumford did as a rookie, playing tackle in the NFL, that means he's gonna take another step this year, and he might be really damn good, to be honest. Because he played. I mean, for a rookie, he was solid.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think he definitely had things to work on, but I think from what we saw last year, right, just knowing he's a rookie and knowing he's got things to work on, my whole thing was, if he comes back in shape this year, and I kept telling people that I know, if he comes back in shape this year to training camp, it's going to be a problem for Jermaine Illuminor, just because, one, he's younger, right? They drafted him, and at the end of the day, they're trying to develop him. So I definitely think he has a shot to win there.
Yeah, and he's bigger.
Yes, he's bigger. Now, if he wins that tackle spot, do you think Jermaine goes to guard?
I don't know. I think they go with Van Roten. I think you just got to keep Illuminor as kind of that, just in case Mumford does go out there and struggle. It might happen, but I don't think it will, just because I think there's something to that year 2 leap for every guy who gets to play tackle. So I think he has a chance to kind of take that same leap, in my opinion. And then that goes the same way with Tyree Wilson and Max Crosby being compliments to each other. And you got Colton Miller, and then you got Thayer Mumford, and you got a right tackle and a left tackle, and then you got all those type of players that have those that upside, and you got Parham in the middle. You got a lot of young offensive linemen that they can grow together, and I think that's really important. So they do have some elements to have a good offensive line this year. They just got to execute, and hopefully they got to work together and find some continuity there, and it'll be interesting though.
Yeah, one thing that encouraged me though, just from hearing today in training camp, although they, the whole offense kind of started slow today. We heard when 11-on-11s came, they kind of picked it up a little bit. Didn't hear too much, from the pressure. I don't know if Nick Bosa was out there. Don't know about that.
He's not.
Oh, he's not. Okay, so that makes a little more sense too. But at the end of the day, though, that defensive line, even without Nick Bosa, sometimes he's hurt. So even without Nick Bosa, they kind of trained themselves to have a good rotation of D-line players. So I didn't hear too many bad things coming from the O-line side of things today.
Yeah, I heard they had a little bit of issue on the drills, the one-on-one drills. But one-on-one drills are designed for defensive linemen to win. So it's more. I think to be, in my opinion, I'm more worried about a defensive lineman loses in that than if an offensive lineman wins, because it's just designed. It's just not designed for them to win. So Andre James still held his own. He really does well in those drills. Colton Miller did. And I believe Parham did a little bit too, from what I heard. But those other guys got worked a little bit. But it's all right. I mean, like I said, that type of drill, if you're winning in that drill, I mean, that's really excellent. It's not designed for you to win.
Exactly. And most people, when you're talking about football, really getting down to the nitty gritty of it, or just the fundamentals of it, most people don't understand that certain drills are just kind of made for certain positions to have the upper hand. Right? Yeah. Some people don't get that. They'll just hear like, oh, offensive line is getting whooped today, and then get mad about it, but don't really know the fundamentals of that.
Yeah, exactly. And practice is always kind of weird. I mean, guys try new things and different things like that, but yeah, it's the one-on-ones. Just if some of the guys held their own in there, you feel pretty good.
Yeah. My guy Don P said we got to move on from Bolden. I don't understand why they keep Brandon Bolden. I personally don't see why they keep Brandon Bolden. But hey, I mean, like you said, I'm not the guy making the decisions. But at the end of the day, I don't think, I don't have an opinion on what he does. I don't see what he does. I mean, you might see that, though, the value.
I don't see it either. So
that's what I'm like. I like, yeah, he might know the system and could teach it to the younger guys, but for a running back, I'm like, come on now, like that's taking up a roster spot that we could probably be using from somebody else. But like we said, we're not making a decision.
Exactly. For real.
But at the end of the day, I want to ask a couple more questions, man. I don't want to keep too much of your time, but. Yeah. I want to ask you about McClendon Curtis too, and then we're going to end it off with Aiden O'Connell. But I want to ask you about McClendon Curtis. This is a guy I think with a little more development that he can start pushing himself, into getting some playing time. What do you think about the undrafted guy?
So Curtis, that was the other guy who it wasn't Parham, it was Curtis that held it his own in the one-on-ones. So that was a guy who had a good Senior Bowl too, and I think he was a high price. Undrafted free agent for the Raiders, and like I said, they need the as many guards as they can bring on. In my opinion, I think they need more guards. They need tackles. I think that if he can develop and be a guy that they can put on this football team, and he can make this football team, I think he could develop into something. I think he's been holding his own throughout camp, and somebody that people have been noticing him making some plays and him kind of growing. So I think that he just went undrafted because kind of the school he went to. A little bit, but I think it's still a good player that can develop into something. And you might have to put him on your roster because I don't think he's going to make a practice squad. I think he's might get picked up on waivers if you do that. Yeah. So it's something for them to think about. But he held his own in the one-on-ones today. So I think obviously that we just talked about that's not a drill for them to win. So obviously he's kind of showing pretty well if he's winning in those drills. So I think that's somebody that's really impressing in camp right now.
Okay. Yeah. I just. His physical prowess, man, like that's a guy right there that I'm, really excited to see the development and what they do, what Carmen Brasillo does with him, really.
Yeah, for sure.
And Okay, two more questions I got for you. Let's just end it off like this. Aiden O'Connell, right? We got to talk about the sexiest position on football, right? Aiden O'Connell, and of course he has the vaunted number that everybody is talking about. But at the end of the day, heard good things from him today at training camp, right? And we heard he was very accurate to end off the practice, going 5 for 7 and the 11 on 11 drills, right? Hitting a number of receivers. What do you think that he can be? Now, I'm not sitting here saying that he can be, the Raiders savior at the end of the day, but I do see some tools that he'd be able to use if he were to get in there and play. Do you agree with that? Do you think he can be at least somebody that we can be like, okay, we're not worried if he has to get in there?
Well, I would be a little worried if he had to get in there, just a little bit.
Okay.
It all depends. It all depends how he's gonna look in preseason. Because with Aiden O'Connell, I would say his ceiling is probably like a Kirk Cousins type of player.
I thought that.
Right.
Yeah.
That would probably be like his highest ceiling. Like if we got a starter out of him, it would probably be a guy like that. I mean, that's probably what you're gonna get.
And that's not bad.
It's not bad. A tough, accurate guy, anticipates, does all those things,
right.
But but just some limitations there that might hurt him just from like arm talent and stuff like that. But the thing with O'Connell that I want to see him kind of develop in the preseason is that what he did today obviously was avoid throwing into traffic and trying to force the ball and throwing interceptions and things like that. Because I think that's what really hurt him in college a little bit. Was a lot of those turnover-worthy plays that he was making. So I think O'Connell has to develop there. So that's why if he played year one, man, it would be a little bit of interesting to see how that works out. But that's why I'm interested to see him in the preseason, because if he can play in the preseason and move the ball, which I think he's going to play. I don't know how much Hoyer is going to play. I really doubt how.
I don't want to see Hoyer out there. I don't even think he needs.
I doubt he plays. Maybe he does. I doubt it. But I think we're going to see a lot of Aiden O'Connell. Because I don't know why Chase Garbers is even there. I think Chase Garbers is just here to play because
that was a head scratcher. That was a head scratcher.
He's there to play, bro. He's just they need somebody to play in the preseason, the fourth
quarter.
I figured
that.
So
yeah, right. Yeah, I figured that.
So I think Connell's gonna get a lot of run. We're gonna see a lot of him. But what I want to see is, like I said, what he did today is just no bad decision. I want to see him be able to move the football and do those things because he's got a lot to develop there. Just kind of learning the offense and going through his reads. And not locking on predetermined throws and stuff like that. He's got to develop in those areas. But I think there's some elements to him, from an accuracy standpoint, some of his throws that he can get better.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, if we were able to get a Kirk Cousins or whatever from a 4th round draft pick, I wouldn't be mad at it. Does it move the needle, especially in the division we're in? It's to be seen, but at the end, because we're facing just the top of the top at the end of the day in 2 games a year. So
we just got to replace Devontae Adams with a Justin Jefferson type.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, at the end of the day, like I tell everybody, bro, like it's cool. You can have an average mid quarterback, but I don't care what you say. We're going against the top of the top quarterback 4 times in our year. So at the end of the day, having a mid-range quarterback isn't going to do much for you if your whole roster isn't good. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
You're right. 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to get that, then that's okay. But I am excited to see him on Sunday for sure. Like Sunday, I want to see what he can do, just leading the team on drives. I think that's going to be real exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see that too. And then, getting to his film after that, I'm really excited to see.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely gonna be tuned into your show after that. So if everybody that's watching this after the Sunday game, man, tune into my man Tape Don't Lie show, man. He's probably gonna break down some very, very good films. So I'm definitely gonna be tuning into that. Last thing I want to ask you, is there anything from training camp, anything that you have heard that's been like a nice, healthy surprise for you? Something that's made you be like, okay, that's something I didn't really expect, but I'm happy to hear it though.
To be honest, I mean, to play the defense, I mean, that was probably like the best surprise. Even if you're like expecting, the offense to have a big year, you expect them to kind of dominate against a defense that you would consider doesn't have as much talent as a lot of defenses in the league. I mean, you keep it real. Right. They don't have as much talent as a lot of defenses in the league, and they're out there making plays. I think they're playing a little more loose or playing more simple, and I think they're mixing things up, and I think that's a good thing. So to play the defense is surprising, and it's a good surprise. You know, because if we could take a next step, I mean, that's going to help Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, and you know, exactly. So I think the defense taking a next step and them even having a pretty good day today. I mean, they gave us some yards and I think they gave up a touchdown or something like that. But just them kind of making some plays, getting some interceptions, knocking balls down, making a lot of plays in the ball. I think that's a big deal. And it's a pleasant surprise for sure.
For me, I mean, you know, just I went into this practice expecting the 49ers to get them just a little something. I mean, they have many playmakers over there. So it'd be naive for us to say, okay, they're just going to shut the 49ers down. No, this is one of the best, you know, rosters in the NFL. But to hear that they're holding their own, you know, and it's not just an onslaught out there and they just Swiss cheese as we've been accustomed to seeing for the past years, right? It's a very healthy surprise. And I think, you know, from what I'm hearing from a lot of beat reporters, you know, today was the day that kind of confirmed like this defense might be a little legit, man. So I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. Hopefully, they stay healthy, man. I think that's a big thing.
That's what it is.
Because they really didn't get that much depth. I'm like, especially like a linebacker. Man, they start going. They go down a linebacker, man. All these dreams we have are not.
I agree. And this is like and this is my thing. I've always said, and I've continued to say on my channel, the linebacker unit needs to get better. And Jalen Smith just signed with the Saints. So now that's off the table, right? So now you're looking at who else can be out there. And I don't really like the choices that are left, right? So at the end of the day, what are you going to trade for somebody? I'm just like, we're relying on Spillane and Diablo, although I've heard a lot about good things about Spillane. Diablo scares me because I just don't think he's going to be healthy for a full 17 games. That's just me. And, you know, he's shown throughout, you know, since we've drafted him that he's had his little health issues. So that's something that scares me about the linebacker unit. If somebody goes down, now we're relying on guys like, I forget his name, who played last year, Luke Masterson, and things of that nature, which, you know, although I like his work ethic, I don't really, you know, that's not a guy I really want to be relying on week in and week out.
Yeah, exactly. So they just gotta stay healthy, man. Hopefully the defense stays healthy over there, and that's gonna be the main thing, so they can play well.
Right. And man, I appreciate you for coming over here, talking some football with me, man. It was a great conversation, bro. I really appreciate everything. If you want to go ahead and shout out, you know, your page or whatever you got going on to the followers that's watching, man, go ahead, do what you got to do.
You know, check out, you know, subscribe to Tate Online. Like we're gonna be doing a whole bunch of film stuff, man. As soon as that all 22 comes out, is gonna continue to hear from here on through all the way through the season, all the way through the draft. It's gonna be nothing but all 22. So as soon as it drops on Monday or whenever that film drops, it's gonna be on from there. You know, for the member section, I'm be doing, you know, all of Jimmy Garoppolo's throws all season, all that type of stuff, all that good stuff. We're doing breakdowns. So you know, just join the channel. Check it out, you know, subscribe. There's gonna be some good stuff on there all year for sure.
For sure, man. And I definitely, you know, if you would like to come back onto the show during the season as well, you know, after a game or whatever, so we can analyze Jimmy's game or anything like that, I would love to have you. And I'm sure my subscribers would love to have you back on here as well.
Yeah, man. Definitely had a good time. So definitely have me back anytime.
Oh, for sure, man. So like my man said, follow him, everything right there. Make sure you guys are hitting the like and subscribe button, man. And this has been another live show, Underrated Rundown, man. Go hit all them buttons, man. And we're going to see y'all next time. Boom.